So here we are at SJ Cook, having what's probably going to be the last look at this car. What I've always tried to do on this channel is to save people money and help them avoid making the mistakes I made, and I made a big mistake when it came to insuring this car. For those of you who don't know, this car was involved in a burglary. The secure storage unit where it was kept was broken into, and this car was used as a getaway car to take away all the tools that they stole. Not my tools, but the first point was it wasn't normally garaged at that unit. It's normally garaged at my home address, but thankfully the insurance company accepted that that postcode was a valid postcode, which is good news. The not so good news is that when you come to insure a car, and this car is on a classic car fleet policy with Footman James, when you come to insure your car, all the policies with Footman James have something called salvage retention, which means that you have the opportunity to retain the car if you want to. However, there is something called zero premium salvage retention, or nil premium salvage retention I should say. And what nil premium salvage retention is you pay an extra £15 a year, and if your car is written off, which this car has been written off, you get to keep the car. Now unfortunately I wasn't aware of that, and I didn't pay that £15, so I don't get to keep this car. I could keep this car if I wanted to, but I don't think it's going to be worth my while to do so, because the reduction in the payout would be some 42%, which in the case of this car is £9,000 or £10,000 that I would have to pay to buy the car back in this condition. And although I think this car is easily fixable, you know, we're talking about new lights, new bumpers, radiator, bonnet, wings, etc. Although I think it's fixable, I don't have the time to do it, and if I did have the time to do it, I would end up with a car that's basically worth what it was before, with a category S, which is a sort of structural damage category on it. And I don't want to do that because I'm not short of SLs. I'm doing another project at the moment, and I've got another 280 manual SL as well. If this was my only car, this was the only car I had in the world, then I would consider it. But it's not the only car I've got. This would make an absolutely perfect project for somebody who, you know, wants to buy a car that isn't rusted and isn't rotted out and has had an enormous amount of work done. If I just walk you around this car, I mean, if you followed this channel, you'll know this, but this car's got new tyres on it. It's got fond metal wheels, which you may or may not like, but these wheels are probably about £2,000 worth of wheels. The people who stole the car, they did manage to just scuff one of the wheels here, but that's not a major thing. The rear of this car is absolutely fine. All the bumper chromes are fine, the rubbers are fine, the lights have all been refurbished, the boots, everything like that is fine. The hood on this car is fine. You'll notice that this is a very rare, or not very rare, but quite rare 5-speed manual. That piece of central trim there is about £400 worth of trim. The interior has all been done. It does have a few issues, this interior. One of the things I was going to do is actually redo the seats properly, but that's not a major issue. All the chrome is fine. There's one piece missing there. All the trims are fine on this car. The engine runs beautifully, at least it did run beautifully on this car. So I suspect there's lots of coolant here, so I suspect that hose there has become detached, and that's where all the coolant has gone. The fan is touching the radiator at the moment, so I suspect, looking at that, you're going to need a new radiator. This structural piece here is going to need to be replaced. It's not a major issue. Actually, the gold parts car I have has all of that on. Not a difficult thing to get hold of. The wings, you know, these were brand new wings. They're not difficult to get hold of. Half of this bumper section is going to be absolutely fine. This bumper section here, once again, is quite possible to get hold of. as well as actually replacing the parts that you're going to need to replace, you'd need to repaint this car. You see the bonnet's just gone into the scuttle panels here slightly into the door here. None of the doors are damaged, but just where the car was pushed down into that stream. I don't think it was driven into the stream, so I don't think there's going to be major structural damage with the chassis. I think the structural damage is purely going to be this section here, which, as I say, it's not going to be too difficult to get hold of. I've actually got that section on my parts car. Once again, you can see you're going to need to repaint this, possibly here as well. You could probably just touch that up. All the seals on this car are new. All of these seals here, these seals, etc., it's all pretty new. The car's always performed amazingly well. It has a beautiful Mercedes clunk when you come to close the door. I'm here just to take out a few things from the car, like my pen, for example, and some things in the dash box here that I had in here. My daughter's name in vinyl, Grace. The interior of this car is okay. It's done in Zebrano wood, and the Palomino, I think, is the colour combo. This is all a seat thing that I put in from SJ, what they call, not SJ Cook, SJS in Germany. Once again, all new seals down here. If you followed this channel, you know that all the front and rear subframe of this car have been taken out, all powder coated. They'll all be in excellent condition. All the engine mounts, control arm bolts, everything's been renewed. Exhaust is good on this car. The rear control arms, subframe, the rear diff has been taken out, new seals, all that kind of stuff. There was no damage to the underside of this car at all. This light's probably a goner, although the bowl inside is fine, and all the seals are new on this car. This indicator on this side is fine as well. But those seals for these headlights are about £100 each. The light on this side, I think is absolutely fine as well. Once again, it's got new seals. You'd need an indicator light, but these little eyebrows here are pretty expensive as well. They're fine. The car's got all new brakes, brake discs, all new seals in there. Wheel bearings have all been done. It's got new calipers. It's not 100% perfect, this car. It has had substantial welding done on it, and I do know it's not a rust bucket. The sills were never repaired properly, but as you can see, they're all pretty solid. There's so many valuable parts on this car. Anybody who's built one of these cars would know each and every little bit costs. These pipes here is like hundreds of pounds. These pipes here, hundreds of pounds. It'll make a great project for someone. I don't know whether they plan to auction this car off as is or whether they'll break it. I suspect they'll probably just break it, which is a great shame because, as I say, most of this car is really solid, and it is a beautiful 5-speed 280 SL. The back of this car has all been carpeted. Everything's in good condition. Never got round to gluing this seal here in. That's not a big deal. Even the boot light's working on this car. So this car is going to end up going to a place called Hills Salvage up in Lancashire. And I don't know whether they'll attempt to auction this car off or whether they'll just break it for parts. I'm not sure about that yet. And here's what the Red Dragon looked like before those idiots stole it and wrecked it. It feels like I've just been dumped out of a great relationship against my will, but luckily I do still have my beautiful, long-suffering wife.